Hello, and welcome to episode 22 of Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I have another great interview coming up, so stay tuned for that. But before I introduce the guest, I have a few announcements. First, thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the SA Matters radio show. In just 4 short months, the show has had over 10,000 downloads. Thank you to those who've shared your wonderful feedback with me also. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio. As many of you know, my passion is to share the Situational Awareness Matters message. I do that by a variety of ways, including the website and the podcast. But I also have some live events, and I want to let you know about some of those live events coming up in case you're in the area and you might be able to attend an event. And even if you can't attend an event, reach out to me and maybe we can just meet up and have a cup of coffee and talk about firefighter safety and situational awareness. October 9 and 10, I'm going to be doing a Situational Awareness Matters program for the Asheville, North Carolina Fire Department. Now, that program is full, so there won't be a way to get into that, but if you're in the Asheville area, you can reach out to me. October 11th and 12th, I'm going to be doing Flawed Situational Awareness, the Stealth Killer First Responders for the East Tennessee Fire and Rescue Conference in Sullivan County, Tennessee. So hopefully I can catch you at that conference, or again, reach out to me and we can meet up. October 15th to 24th, I'm going to be working on an international project known as From Knowledge to Practice, embedding scientific knowledge into fire dynamics and firefighting operations. This is a worldwide project being sponsored and funded by the Ottawa, Ontario Fire Department, and they're going to be bringing practitioners and researchers together from all over the world to talk about how we get smarter about fire dynamics and training firefighters. So I'm really excited to be part of that project. I'm going to be there October 15th to 24th. So if you're in the Ottawa area, reach out to me. There won't be a class there for you to attend, but we can still meet up. October 17th and 18th, I'm going to be doing an international situational awareness tour stop. 2 classes, a flawed situational awareness class and a firefighter safety mistakes and best practices class at the Southern Alberta Fire Department Conference in Lethbridge. So I'll actually be going from Ottawa over to Lethbridge and then back to Ottawa. So if you're October 17, 18, if you're in the Lethbridge area, reach out to me. October 25th, I'm doing a program for the Andover, Minnesota Fire Department. That's a closed program for their department members only, which is here in Minnesota where I live. So you can reach out to me anytime if you live here in Minnesota. October 29th, I'm going to be doing a situational awareness program for the Public Safety Commission of Beaver County, Pennsylvania, in the Pittsburgh area. So if you're in that area in around October 29th, sign up for that one or reach out to me. And then October 31st, I'm going to be in Marion, Ohio, doing a program for the Marion Township Fire Department and Chief Brian Taylor. Now, that's a closed program as well, but if you're in the Marion area, you can reach out to me. November 1st, I'll be doing 2 programs for the Richland Area Firefighters Association in Athens, Ohio. And then November 3rd and 4th on to Chicago, where I'll be doing 3 programs for the Cook County Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. November 6th, then, on to the Volunteer and Combination Officers Section Symposium in Clearwater Beach, Florida. November 10th, then on to Venice Fire Department in Venice, Florida. November 17th to 20th, I'm doing an industrial situational awareness program for nuclear fuel services in Irwin, Tennessee. So if you're in the Irwin, Tennessee or Johnson City area of Tennessee, reach out to me and we could meet up there. That industrial program is private for the employees of nuclear fuel services, so there's not a way for you to attend that. So that's the things upcoming. You can see that the live event schedule is pretty busy, and I appreciate those opportunities that have come my way. I really love connecting with people during the live events, and we have a good time, but we're learning a lot also about situational awareness. Now, I mentioned this in the last podcast show. I'm really excited about some additional changes that are going to be made and additional features coming to the Situational Awareness Matters community. First, as many of you know, about a year ago, I launched the SA Matters Online Academy. The feedback from students was just awesome. I'm very humbled by that. They offered some ideas for how to improve the Academy, and I took those ideas and I've incorporated them into an upgraded version of the Academy. One of the features that will be added is a department can now enroll all their members in the Academy. Previously, the only enrollment option was for individuals. So now a department can sign up their members at a discounted rate. We're adding more video content, more audio content. The Academy is without a doubt the most affordable way to get your entire department dialed in on the critical skills of developing and maintaining situational awareness while your members are working in high-risk, high-consequence environments. So watch for those announcements on the upgraded Academy release on the SA Matters website. We're also going to make some changes in the membership levels for the Situational Awareness Matters Academy. Right now, anybody who opts in or signs up for a membership receives a monthly newsletter for free. And we're going to continue that, but we're also going to add another level of membership, a premium level of membership. So let me just take a moment and tell you about those two differences. Everybody who's signed up for the basic membership now will continue to receive that, and there will be no cost for that. The basic membership level is going to be designed for individuals who want to just casually stay in touch with our mission and who want to learn about some things happening in the SA Matters community. The basic member newsletter will be scaled down just a little bit from the current version. The newsletter will contain links to the articles as it does now from the SA Matters blog. It'll contain links to the SA Matters radio podcast shows as it does now. There will be a list of upcoming events, alerting members to the opportunities to attend live events that are coming up, like I announced here just previously. And we'll also include a list of new members that have joined the community. Those signing up for the basic membership going forward will also receive a special report called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. That's a 15-page special report, white paper, whatever term you would want to put to it, that I have prepared that the new members will get. And again, the basic membership will continue to be free. The premium level membership is designed for individuals who want to take their knowledge and their application of situational awareness lessons to a higher level. I keep getting asked about this all the time. How do we up the game? How do we get smarter? How do we incorporate this into our training? And a whole lot of great questions and a whole lot of hungry minds, but I really didn't have a way to meet those inquiries or those desires. So the premium membership is going to do that. So let me tell you about a few things the premium membership's going to offer. There's going to be some video content in the newsletter each month. Now the basic won't get this, but the premium will. There will be audio downloads of the blog articles. So the blog articles will then be read into audio downloads by me, and the premium members will then get the blog articles in the form of audio that they can listen to on a portable device or while they're doing something else. There will be transcriptions of podcast shows. There will be exclusive content, in the monthly newsletter. There will be discounts on books and videos that we have available on the website. Previously, the discounts were put out in the basic newsletter. The discounts will now be exclusive for the premium members. There will be discounts on the tuition for various online classes. Webinars will be offered to premium content members. Teleseminars. I have launched a private Facebook mastermind forum that we will all be able to go into, and I will be in there regularly sharing ideas, answering questions, giving tips, best practices, things like that. There we access to my course outlines. So as I make my courses and develop my outlines, those with the premium content then will be able to print and use the outlines in their teaching of other people. We will have some exclusive podcast interviews with thought leaders on safety and leadership. There will be audio downloads. There will be some live meetups. You heard me mention earlier, if I'm in the area, they reach out to me, we'll meet up. As I go forward for premium members, what I'm going to do is make more formal announcements of specific places and times for meetups, so we can get the smart people together that want to advance their knowledge on situational awareness and just have a enjoyable get together, whether it's for coffee or whatever the libation you care to enjoy, and just get to know each other and share ideas and learn from each other. I'm working on the technology to have streaming video and audio from selected live program events. So premium content members will be able to sign up and attend live events, either with video streaming or audio streaming. I'm going to provide the premium content members with some tutorials about how they can become teachers on the topic of situational awareness and offer some model policies and procedures. For those who sign up for the premium membership, as an enticement to get premium members to sign up, I am going to offer a free class called Situational Awareness Lightning Round, 30 Situational Awareness Barriers. And this is a $99 value program that'll be given for free to the premium members as they opt in for that membership level. The cost for premium membership is going to be $108 a year. That's $9 a month. And those premium members can then take that content and use that to teach their departments and share that information out with others. So I think that's a pretty good value. Little disclaimer here, not all of the features of the premium level will be ready for rollout all at the same time. I mean, there's only so much of me that can work on this. It's so fast, but I'm on it hard and heavy, but I might not have all the features worked out and all the bugs worked out so that it all rolls out at the same time. But I'm get it out as quickly as I can, and I'll thank you in advance for your patience as I develop and implement these improvements. And I suspect there will be some people in the premium side who will make some suggestions about other ways that I can support them as well. We've been working really hard and listening to your great feedback about how to add value for our community and how to increase ways for you to improve your situational awareness. So watch for these exciting changes coming to Situational Awareness Matters. On this episode, I interview Captain John Lightly. John has served as a member of the Youngstown, Ohio Fire Department for 13 years. Youngstown Fire Department has 8 stations and a sworn strength of 135 firefighters. John is married and has twin daughters who are in 3rd grade, so you can imagine how exciting and maybe hectic John's life is. So I really appreciate him sitting down with me and sharing his close call survivor story where he almost died as a result of being caught in a flashover. For reasons that will become obvious during the interview, I titled this episode 3 Feet from Death and dedicate it to all firefighters who've been caught in a flashover and did not live to tell their story. In this episode, you will learn how John conducted his size up and made a determination based on the clues and the cues that formed his situational awareness that there was a high probability that this house was occupied. How the flashover occurred within 2 minutes of entry, a recurring theme that I'm seeing among flashover casualty incidents. How communications challenges influenced their understanding among the crew members, how John experienced tachypsychia, or slowing down of time when the flashover occurred. You'll listen to John describe how he felt intuition in the form of a sick feeling in his gut, and then later as a feeling that someone had punched him in the stomach. John will also talk about self-speak, the neurological phenomena where we talk to ourselves during our high-consequence situations. Only John didn't call it self-speak, and I'll let him explain what he called it and why he called it what he did. You'll learn how John's entry the first 2 times were under the premise of assuming the risk of being a firefighter, yet he admits that his entry the 3rd time, he actually was creating risk, not assuming risk. So let's join in on my interview with Youngstown, Ohio Fire Captain John Lightly, a close call survivor caught in a flashover at a residential dwelling fire. Now, a little note here before we get stuck into the interview. When I was going through and doing the editing for this interview, I realized it was almost 2 hours long. So I cut this interview into 2 parts. So this interview with Captain Lightly will be episodes 22 and 23. So you'll want to tune in for both of them. All right, let's get back to our interview.
Thank you, Dr. Gasaway. Appreciate your website, your teaching, your preaching that the situation awareness is key. It's a lifesaver. That was definitely the reason that I came out of my situation in one piece. I realized that the situation was getting worse. If I had not been aware of my surroundings, I definitely would not be here doing this interview for you.
Well, thank you for that.
I appreciate what you've done and keep going with all that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That makes me feel good, and it inspires me to want to work harder for you, and for everyone else. So let's just start on the day that it happened. You can even go back, even before the call came in, what kind of day you were having, busy day. I know you told me before that we started recording, guys do like 400 structure fires, maybe rivaled second to Gary, Indiana for the number of fires that you see. What kind of day were you having? Did you have your regular staffing on duty? And then just tell me about as the call came in, if you were first in, second in, and just tell the story.
Absolutely. In our department, lieutenant is the engineer, driver, operator, and then when the captain is off, the lieutenant bumps up and rides the seat, as we call it, acting captain. So I was acting captain that day. It was a good day because we actually had a total of 4 guys on the truck. Myself, 1 acting lieutenant, and 2 firefighters. Generally, for us, there's only 3 on the trucks, on the pumps. My station is in the heart of our south side. We share quarters with a ladder company and a battalion chief. Normal day, couple false alarms here and there, just general stuff. Good day with the guys. Went to bed just like normal. Figured we'd probably get something during the night because that's certainly our busiest time. And it was probably about 4:30 in the morning when the bell hit. And as soon as they said the street, we knew that we'd be first in. We're very proud of our company. We fight a lot of fire. And of course, we always want to be first in. Rolled on the call, doing our normal thing, getting ready as we went. Calm conversation in the cab, making sure our driver knew exactly which turn. We followed the battalion chief, as is our custom. And the thing that was a little bit different is they said occupied structure fire. In the city of Youngstown, we have thousands of vacant homes, and those are usually the prime target of arsonists. I can say our city has averaged over the past number of years about 400 structure fires a year. I'd been on for 8 or 9 years at the time, so I'd been to hundreds of fires. Everybody in that truck That day was a seasoned guy. I'd fought fire with all of them, never had any problems. And having that fourth guy definitely made me feel more capable, like we could accomplish more, because I knew our hose line would get stretched faster. I knew that we'd have extra help inside, we'd have extra eyes and ears, which was good because going to the report of the occupied, you're at that time of the day, chances are more than likely somebody is still inside. So that always heightens your sensations. We turned the corner, and up ahead we could see two Youngstown police cars parked over in about the general area of where the house should be. And that's kind of a rarity for us. It's very rare that the YPD goes to structure fires with us because they're busy enough handling their own problems. It's not like a lot of places where there's always a police car marking the driveway or standing there to direct traffic or to give you a size up, as you come upon the scene. So that was one thing that was kind of out of the ordinary. And as we pulled up to a stop, the second thing that was out of the ordinary was I couldn't see the house. Most of our houses are the standard, maybe 50 feet or less from the curb to the front door. We pull 1 3/4 pre-connects. We have a 150-foot pre-connect and we have a 200-foot pre-connect. I know a lot of teaching out there talks about you should always estimate the stretch. You can't rely on pre-connects because that's how we do it every time. Well, there is a reason why I think that we do it every time is because 95% of the time, this line is the right one. So we were kind of shocked when we stopped in front of the house, which we knew was the house because there was a cop running down the driveway towards us, waving his arms. We could tell that it was further back, so I instantly called for the 200-foot pre-connect. I started down the driveway, long, narrow driveway, hedge on one side, and I'm headed towards a bunch of pine trees that went across the front yard. So that blocked the view. In the dark, it looked like the pine trees were closer than they actually were. I jogged maybe 150 feet or so until I got past the pine trees, and that was the first look I had at the house. I quickly realized that the 200-foot pre-connect was definitely the better choice. Your standard 1.5-story wood frame structures. The door was located on the 1/4 corner at the front of the house there. A partially attached garage on side 4. I say partially because it was basically attached with a covered walkway. Couple things that heightened my awareness about the fact, or concern, I should say, about the fact that it might be an occupied structure was the way the house looked. It didn't have the typical run-down, dilapidated, vacant look that a lot of our housing properties have. It had 2 cars in the driveway, one of which was a nicer car. It wasn't all beat up. It would be the style that if that house was vacant, that car wouldn't have been in the driveway very long. It would have been stolen, which sadly is normal for us. So seeing that there was a nicer car parked there led me more to believe that it was an occupied house. There was a dog chained to the corner of the garage. You don't see that on vacant houses. Standard yard furniture, a grill sitting by the garage. Again, if this had been vacant for any length of time, that grill would have been at somebody else's porch, not at this location. As I stood there and quickly took all these indicators, these clues into my mind, it definitely made me realize the high probability that this is an occupied house. And whether we like to admit it or not, I think when we're dealing with an occupied structure, we fight fire in one manner. When we're dealing with a vacant, we fight it in a different manner. There's the big debate going on about should you search if it's a vacant house, so forth. But we always definitely search when we know or certainly believe it to be occupied. And that, by very nature of firefighters, it makes us more aggressive. It makes us want to get in and get the job done faster. So plugging all of these into my my thought process, I realized that the situation was a little bit more intense than, if it was just a standard vacant home where we could, quickly go defensive if we needed to. So I think my situational awareness was allowing my tactics to be formed. I turned and looked. It's standard for our ladder company to start opening up a point of entry as we're stretching the line. I could see that being done. Yes, the ladder company, by the time I made it down to the house, the ladder company had pulled up behind us, and I could see them coming down the driveway with their various tools, and I knew, based on having had lots of fires with that ladder company, I knew where they were going to go. I knew what they were going to do. Typically, if one of our engine companies arrives before a battalion chief, that engine officer will do the 360. I did not do a 360 on this structure because the battalion chief arrived before us. He made it up to the house before I did, and he had started a 360. Part of the 360 for myself would have been blocked anyways because of the way the covered porch led from the house to the garage, and because of the dog. I wasn't going to take my chances on an unhappy dog deciding I shouldn't do a 360. But I was still okay with that because I trust that battalion chief. He and I had been to lots of fires together, myself as either a pump operator or as the acting captain, him in command. We had developed kind of that relationship where motions and looks conveyed a lot of communication. So I felt real comfortable with him.
Okay, John, let me ask you, did the battalion chief complete the 360?
The battalion chief did as much of the 360 as was possible due to the dog and the other obstruction of the way the covered walkway, the covered porch, ran from the house to the garage. A true 360, while it's definitely important, is obviously sometimes just not physically possible. The one benefit in this case was because we had smoke coming from the front of the house and just a little bit of the front portion of side 4, he didn't really need to 360 the rest of side 4, which was the garage. There was nothing coming from that corner that led to the garage. What he did was went around from side 1 to side 2 and made it to side 3 as far as possible. Mm-hmm. So again, he covered as much territory as was possible. Okay. He was just slowed down by the obstructions.
Okay.
But as he got ready to head around the corner of side 1-2, I was kneeling down to go ahead and mask up. At that point, I had moderate smoke coming from the eaves along side 1. a little bit of the side 1-4 corner. Nothing much. Wasn't heavy, wasn't ugly black, was just normal. It didn't appear any different than the number of fires I'd been in before. Didn't see any flame whatsoever. The side door or the main entry door was closed and locked, so there was nothing pushing around that door. Well, as he started to leave my sight or my viewpoint, he was talking to one of the police officers, and he turned and looked and hollered across the yard, maybe 30 feet or so. He says, "Hey, John, the cops came on a burglar alarm." Well, that finished off, the indicators to me that it was going to be an occupied structure, that we were definitely going to be looking for one or more persons, because they rolled on a burglar alarm. The cops are the ones that called in the fire department, saying that the structure was on fire. And it would be very rare in the city for someone to have their burglar alarm at that time of day and not be at home. So that just, all those pieces of the puzzle, my situational awareness was telling me occupied, you need to get in, you need to push. This door is locked. That means they didn't come out after the fire started. So he then disappeared around the corner. One of the ladder guys came up and popped the side door for me. A real simple force, nothing involved there. And when he did, I was masked up. I was looking right inside into the living room. I could see clear to the back wall. The living room, I would estimate, would be your basic standard 12 by 12, 15 by 12. Not a huge, definitely not a McMansion type of home. I would guess the whole structure was maybe 1,200 square feet. So not a large place. There were 3 steps up into the structure, concrete steps, kind of like the type you would have on a side entrance of a trailer. Which that was a little bit different, and it ended up being very beneficial for me. A lot of our homes have 3 steps up to a covered front porch, and the distance from the top step to the front door is the width of the porch. It might be 10 to 12 feet, just your standard old mill construction type of homes. Well, this one only led up 3 concrete steps, and then there was a threshold. So I kneeled on the top step, just a little bit of light smoke coming out at the very top of the doorway, no heat, and I could see a small amount of flame over to my left, which would have been the 1-2 corner. I was entering the 1-4 corner. The small bit of flame would have been the 1-2 corner. It was down low, and my first thought was it would be electrical, because I could tell there it looked like a lamp sitting on a small table over in that corner, and as low as it was about the height of your standard electrical outlet. So I'm thinking we just have a small electrical fire. It hasn't taken off yet. This should be a pretty simple fire. We just got to do a search. So all this could have only taken a few seconds for me to make that quick determination and alert myself to the fire conditions. I turned and looked, and I saw my 2 guys had stretched the line, and they'd come up about 20 feet short. So what are the odds? It's very rare that our 200-foot pre-connect does not reach. It's extremely rare. I can only think of a handful of times in my career where we've had to extend past 200 feet. Notwithstanding, you're going onto the 3rd or 4th floor of a apartment complex or something. So I looked at that. I wasn't worried. I knew that the two firefighters and the pump operator had done this before, that they'd extend the hose line by a section. They'd be right behind me. I was calm. I think I was very relaxed. I think I was thinking clearly. But I was also thinking quickly, we need to get in right now and start searching for this. The fire is small. Time should be on your side. The risk was relatively low, and the reward was potentially high. And I mean, that's what the mantra that we're trying to preach to people. You know, the risk a little, risk a lot scenario.
Yep.
This was a perfect example to go in, or a perfect reason to make entry without a charged hose line. We had high probability of a victim, and we had a very slow, small fire. I made entry by myself. I don't recall if I waved at one of my guys or communicated with one of my guys. Going forward in my career, I need to make sure that if I'm ever in a situation similar to that, that I definitely make them aware of my intentions. So that was a learning thing in hindsight for me. But again, I was comfortable going into this room alone. I could see to the back of the room. The living room is what it ended up being. I could see a couch right inside the door to my left and extended into the center of the room. I could see a television set on my left, and dead straight ahead of me, I could see a bed. That's normal for us in our occupied houses. A lot of times a bed in the living room means an invalid. It means an elderly person with whatever chronic disease. They can't make it up the stairs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they put the hospital bed in the front room.
Right.
So my situational awareness kicked up another notch. I said, I might have a victim here.
Could you see the bed? Could you see if there was somebody on the bed at that point?
I could see the outline of the bed. I knew instantly that it was a bed. I could tell that there was bedding on top, but there was no way to see if there was anybody under the covers. And the bed was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 feet away from where the actual fire was. Okay. The bed ran along the side 2 wall.
Okay.
So I said, this is simple. I walked in. I didn't crouch. I didn't crawl. I stepped in. I could see the floor. We train, if you could see the floor, you should be at a minimum duck walking, but you're most likely capable of standing upright. You can't see your feet, you get down and crawl. If you step in and you feel heat, get down. I stepped in, I had no heat. I had, I would estimate the smoke layer was a foot to 1.5 foot off the ceiling level. So if it's an 8-foot ceiling, it's down to 6.5 feet or so. I'm 5'10". My head was underneath the smoke layer. That creates confidence. It creates the thought that you can do what you need to do. I quickly crossed over to the bed, did a real quick, thorough search of the top of the bed, and I did a quick sweep underneath the bed. Couldn't sweep very well because of the standard junk that people keep under their beds. No body. I said, this is great. I turned, I glanced at the fire. It had gone from the level of about 2 feet off the floor and had traveled up, so it was now going from the floor to the ceiling, but still just in the corner. It had not begun to spread across the ceiling. It had not begun to spread across the sidewalls. I looked at it with my fire behavior knowledge, and I said, yeah, I mean, we're in the growth stage, but it's a very small growth. It's not, it hasn't produced enough heat to start banking down yet? I said, we're good. I turned and I exited the structure. I was in the main travel path from the bed to the front door, a common place that we should be looking for victims. I passed the couch, and I didn't specifically search the couch, but I could see there was nobody sitting or laying on the couch. I said, this is good. I stepped out onto the top step to where I could see my guys in the front yard, and they were extending the hose line. I said, great. It looked like they'd be ready to go here in a matter of seconds. I turned to go back in and finish a primary of that living room. As I did, I'd only been outside the structure maybe 10 seconds. It's maybe been 20 seconds since I'd been over by the bed. As I stepped back in, I had to duck. I had to duck under the smoke layer, and I had to duck under the heat. And I thought, wow, that picked up pretty quick. I looked over at the corner that was on fire, and now it had spread from the 1-2 corner all the way across side 1 and all the way across side 2, but at the ceiling level. So I knew the fire had just picked up. But again, I'd seen this before. I wasn't too concerned. I knew my guys were coming. The visibility was still pretty decent. Nothing to worry about. I spent maybe 10 seconds finishing a primary of the room, primarily because I was still able to move quickly, still able to be in a crouched position. Visibility was still pretty good. I came back towards the door, and I noticed a small motorcycle. When you knocked the door in, it swung to the right, and sitting behind the door was a motorcycle. I'm not a motorcycle guy, but it was small, maybe like a 50 or a 100 cc like dirt bike type of motorcycle. Mm-hmm. And that's fairly common for us, you know. I've crawled into living rooms and run into engines. I've crawled in and found motorcycles. We had a house fire one night, and a crew found a horse. A small pony was in one of the downstairs rooms. And that didn't really surprise too many of us. That's just par for our course. So I looked at the bike, and I moved it to the side so that we'd have more access coming in the door. I noticed a gas can sitting next to the motorcycle. I should have had the thought process of gas fumes, traveling fire. I'd better pitch this out. So I was situationally aware of the gas can, but I didn't take the simple step of pitching that out into the front yard. So sometimes I think we can be very aware of our surroundings and just not make a good decision. Not that it necessarily was going to hurt me, but I could have taken a step to reduce a hazard. I stepped back out onto the steps, and I looked, and my guys still weren't finished with the hose stretch. By this time, another company had gotten there. They'd accomplished their arrival activities, and one of the guys was masking up in the driveway. I looked at him, and I said, are we going to do this or what? And he kind of looks over, and he says, I don't know what the problem is. So now I'm a little frustrated. I didn't know what the situation was. I could tell that the two guys were working hard on extending the hose line, but my thought was they should have had this done. What's taken so long? So I turned back into the house to, with, I feel, a good thought in mind. I had not investigated where the hallway was that led to the rest of the house. My thought process was, there's nobody in this front room. We're going to knock down the front room. Fire behavior and water application tells me that as soon as I knock down this fire, smoke's going to come down to the floor, visibility is going to be gone. I'm not going to know which way to move to find the hallway, which will lead to the bedrooms, the kitchen, the rest of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach my students, when you're at the front door, whether you're moving down a hallway, you got to get down low and look underneath that smoke layer, because you have one chance to potentially see a victim laying on the floor. You have one chance to see a bottom step. So if I go in and I knock down the fire, and I know that the stairs are going to be off to my right, and I'm going to estimate 10 or 12 feet, I knock down the fire. It doesn't matter if I can't see the stairs, because I can see them in my mind. That quick little image that I take.
Mm-hmm.
So I turn back into the house, and now I'm down on my knees, because even though I've only been out of the structure, again, maybe 15 seconds, the smoke has pushed down to maybe 2 feet off the ground. The heat is pretty warm now. It wasn't, oh my goodness, I'm going to die heat, but it was definitely the type of heat that is going to make you think, and was going to be the level of heat that a couple of years later you're going to be talking, oh boy, that was a hot one. I am certainly not God's gift to firefighters, but through my time, I've developed a good tolerance of heat, which I think is good because it allows me to stay in function, but it's bad because it allows me to stay in function.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Certainly. Mm-hmm.
So from the time you made your first entry, conditions were really good. I mean, you could look around, you could see the little bit of flame in the corner, till the time now that the smoke is 2 feet off the floor. What's the total time that has passed? And I know time is kind of hard to track in your mind, but as you look back now, about how much time has passed in this incident to this point?
You're correct. It seemed like time was standing still.
Uh-huh.
But I truly feel that if I'm being very objective and thinking it out logically, it certainly wasn't any more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
It was probably in the area of a minute to a minute and a half from the time I first made entry.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
As the conditions turned that significantly advancing conditions in a minute and a half, were you thinking that this fire is going to it's going to outmaneuver you, it's going to get ahead of you, it's going to, you're not, if it's I don't want to put the thought in your mind, but I'm wondering, were you thinking, holy cow, look how this fire has grown this much in a minute and a half? Was that on your mind?
Absolutely. I was thinking, man, this thing is getting away from us. It's progressing quickly. And yet, I was still thinking that in terms of finding a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was realizing that it was starting to get ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
But that meant it was also getting ahead of our ability to reach any potential victims.
Right.
And I wanted to accomplish as much search and learning the layout of the structure as fast as possible, because the fire was taking off so fast. So yeah, I was fully aware of how quickly the fire was going. But even with all my fire behavior knowledge, even with consciously realizing the fire was taking off and getting ahead of us, I still was surprised, I think, by the speed of which it occurred. I mean, I've watched the UL videos, the NIST videos on flashover. We've seen all kinds of training stuff. I've lit training fires, and we've tracked, the speed and so forth. But even knowing all that, being aware of all that, it's still caught me by surprise at just how quickly this was moving.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to pause here just to keep the podcast at a reasonable length, and then we'll pick up on episode 23 and get the rest of John's interview, and I'll also ask him a question about how his wife took the news of him telling her he almost died. So you want to hear what he had to say about that as well. Well, that's it. Episode 22 is complete. Thank you, Captain John Lightly from the Youngstown, Ohio Fire Department, for sharing part of your incredible close call survivor story with us. We'll pick up the rest of your story in episode 23. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to be interviewed on this show, visit samatters.com and click on the Contact Us link. Thank you in advance for sharing your lessons so that others may live. Thank you also for sharing some of your valuable time with me today to listen to this episode. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you like the show, please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and search out SA Matters Radio and subscribe to the podcast and leave your feedback in a 5-star review. Not only do I find this extremely valuable personal information that inspires me to work harder for you, it will also help others find the show. You can also sign up for the free SA Matters monthly newsletter by visiting samatters.com and clicking on the red box on the right side of the homepage. Remember to be watching samatters.com for some announcements about changes that will be made that was mentioned at the beginning of the podcast episode with Captain Lightly. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.